Hey everyone, Joe Waxman here. And in this video, I want to look at the conjunction of Sun and Mercury. That's right, I'm starting a new series of Sun conjunct all the planets. So we're starting with Sun conjunct Mercury because Mercury is the closest to the Sun, so that's why. Guys, please hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. All right, so what is Sun conjunct Mercury? Well, Sun everyone knows their sun sign pretty much. It's usually the thing that we most identify with, even though the ascendant is our most personal sense of self. And the moon is even much closer to our personal sense of self than our sun. We go around saying, I'm a Gemini, I'm a Leo, I'm a Sagittarius, I'm a Scorpio. It's even unconscious. I mean, I do it too, because it really, the sun, even though we don't live on the sun, we live on the earth. The sun in astrology relates to how we connect to the world. It's our worldliness. So when we get up in the morning, we're always our ascendant sign, and then our moon is very close by. But as soon as we start interacting with the world, we're operating from our sun sign. And it dominates everything and it eclipses everything. So it's sort of like, of course, I'm a Gemini, whatever your sun sign is, it's the sun. It's lighting up everything, right? It's taking over. So of course you identify with your sun sign. It's just not the most personal sense of self. It's just the most dominant aspect of a chart. It's the king. It's the sun. There's no planet that's going to outshine the sun. It's impossible, right? Not Saturn, not Jupiter, certainly not any of the other planets, right? But in any case, so the sun rules our connection to the world, our worldliness. When the sun's out, we're operating from our sun sign, full force, right? And it rules fame, it rules recognition, it rules our ego, our pride. It's the king, and it is the biggest, brightest light of our personality, right? So it's important to recognize that our ego is very much, our ego and pride is very much tied to our sun. So yeah. And what is Mercury? Mercury is the first planet. It's the closest planet to the sun. It is the fastest moving planet. It spins around the sun faster than any other planet, basically because it's closest. It is hot and dry. It is neutral. It is rules Gemini and Virgo, my sun and moon and Venus. So I'm very mercurial. It rules the intellect and it rules expression and it rules language, words, right? Not the voice, that's Taurus and Venus, but it rules the communication, the expression. Speaking with your hands. It's not just the what comes out of your mouth. It's the whole expression is Mercury. And skills of the hands are also Mercury. So you could be playing guitar or painting or drawing or massage or anything that you're doing with your hands. That's also going to be very mercurial. So when Sun and Mercury come together, the Sun is embodying all these mercurial qualities, and the Sun does better conjunct the sun. The Mercury does better conjunct the Sun than most other planets because it's so used to being close to the Sun, and it's very hot and dry already. So the combustion is not as severe. Like, let's say it's really close to the sun where it's so-called combust by the sun. It's not going to be as bad as Venus or Jupiter, Mars, any of the others, but there will still be some irritation with Sun and Mercury close together. These people can easily get irritated. They can suffer from burnout. If they work too hard. Any planet that's combusts the sun can have this kind of burnout quality where the planet doesn't operate well. It becomes very irritable and grouchy. In the case of Mercury, these people can become foul-mouthed and really aggressive. Verbally, they could be verbally abusive or verbally very crude. At times, it'll just like their expression could become like overly strong, right? That's the malefic side of the sun coming out. So just watch out for that. You might not even expect it at times, depending on the sign and house and all the aspects, but they can be sharp, they can be rough. They're also going to be very quick-minded, very intellectual, and if the sign supports it, house supports it, the hyper intellectual. These can be the most intellectual people, right? So yeah, especially in air signs, they'll be very intellectual. Virgo too, earth signs in general. In water signs, they'll be more expressive, although Scorpio can be very intellectual as well. It can be quite scientific and deep digging. And in fire signs, very big and expressive, right? But let's look at each one and we'll see examples. Through the signs, Aries first, as always. 1 second. There we go. Paul Rudd. Well, he's got his sun conjunct Mercury and Venus. So, but I liked him anyway out of this selection. And let me just read who else has an Aries. Quentin Tarantino, and I wanted to do his chart, but there's no good birth time. So I know somebody said in the comments, they're like, "Oh, you don't need an accurate birth time." Well, mind your own business, buddy. I do. Okay, I'm being facetious. I mean, it's no harm, no foul. But I mean, I like to include the birth time, but I don't like to be told what to do either. So anyway, Joan Crawford, Marvin Gaye, Christopher Walken, Elle Macpherson, Omar Sharif, and J.P. Morgan. These are all Aries type people, Mercury Aries. Well, obviously, Sun is exalted in Aries. So these people are going to have a pretty big, bold, righteous sun that gets things done and shines really bright. Aries sun are just like full of energy, and they light up the room, they inspire everyone, especially with the Mercury. They're going to be really inspirational, just on fire, very snappy, probably opinionated, especially conjunct Venus. Venus would more rule like somebody's taste, so that would be the opinions, but the Mercury is probably going to be attached to their ideas and whatnot. Venus is retrograde, so that tends to create a interesting sense of style. Somebody who's resistant to the conventionalities of Venus. You might like unconventional women too, but in any case, very intellectual, very inspirational. Mercury in Aries is really knows how to deliver a speech that gets people motivated. There's a nice, really nice trine from Mars to Sun, and then Mars is, bonifying the Sun, Mercury. I mean, it's closer to Mercury, excuse me. But this is a really strong 10th house. Woo. Sorry about that. Yes. So yes, this Mars is really helping out the 10th house. So very big 10th house. North Node conjunct Chiron in Aries, 9th, 10th. So Chiron for playing the Chironic role. I mean, think about Ant-Man. Definitely fits the bill. South Node Uranus. That's also wonderful. I mean, that's like the mark of a genius, or somebody who's like very politically social minded, or in some way Uranian, extremely independent, electric. But with Paul Rudd, I think it's relating more to humor, because Uranus can be humor. And remember, all these the planets have so many different associations, like levels, and you can operate on different levels depending on where your consciousness is at, or what sign it's in. So it's air sign, so it's definitely bringing out a lot of humor, and he is a funny guy, right? And then so air and fire tend to have that quality of humor and comedy. He's going, ascendant Lord in the 5th house. It's good. Ascendant trine. He's got well, it's almost a grand water trine, but it's connecting with the 0-degree Aries North Node. In any case, don't want to spend too long on each one, but Sun's ruling. So I would look to the houses to see how these are operating. The houses they rule. The house that it's in, and the house they rule. So Sun ruling the second for speech, obviously for an actor, that's perfect. Mercury communication. Mercury's ruling the third house, so intellect, communication, and the 12th. So for an actor, that's perfect, right? Yeah. Saturn's not so good here, and Saturn is square the ascendant, so he probably has some difficulty. Now there's Venus, but so he probably has some difficulty with authority, especially when he's younger. Right, he's being dominated by certain older people, authority, dictators in his life. Anyway, that's Paul Rudd. Let's go into Taurus, and we're going to look at Stevie Wonder. Of course, Taurus will lend itself to the voice. But just, well, read to you the other people in Taurus. Jessica Alba, Salvador Dali. I actually wanted to look at his chart, but yeah, there's not a no, I didn't choose it for another reason. That's why there was some other reason anyway. Yannick Noah, who's a tennis champion, George Carlin, Laurence Olivier, and Meek Mill. All right, but we're looking at Stevie Wonder, and he's got his Mercury retrograde, which is interesting. I don't know what he's like in real life. He seems like a really nice guy, though. But the Mercury retrograde is going to behave a little bit different. It's going to be a bit more. Obviously, you have to look at what negative aspects it has on it. Squares and inconjuncts are going to be worse. And this does have one to Venus. Venus is ascendant lord. So there's something going on. And I wonder if that relates to his blindness. I didn't study medical astrology, so it's not like I'm really good at determining like, what causes what, but there's some issue there. Retrograde planets that have bad aspects are going to behave worse. Okay, so just know that, because they're in deep resistance. They're going against the grain. They're constantly going backwards. So like Mercury retrograde conjunct the sun, these are overthinkers. These are people who are going to be more disagreeable. Like you say something like, nah, I don't think so. I don't agree. They don't want to agree because their Mercury's going backwards, and they're just going to think a lot, and they're going to do things over, and they're going to reassess, kind of like Mercury in Virgo, or any planet in Virgo tends to be an overthinker. Mercury retrogrades tend to overthink. But this is in the 8th house, no less, which is surprising, but it is in Taurus, right? And Stevie Wonder is a wonder. Well, look at his 2nd house. It's Scorpio. There's no planets, and then Mars in Virgo. So like, what is up with that? Like, this Mars, which is the 2nd house ruler, is not in great dignity. But look at this trine. It's trine the sun and Mercury in Taurus, right? So there, the bonification, the relation to the 2nd house. Mercury is the ruler and exaltation lord of Virgo. So that's excellent. It's connecting to the sun and Mars, the 2nd house ruler. North node Venus. Venus is his ascendant lord, which is interesting. I'm jumping around a bit. I didn't even look at the sun. Okay, so the sun's ruling the 11th house, career success in the 8th. Interesting. I mean, there's probably a lot more to Stevie Wonder than we know, because the 8th house is very secretive. 8th lord in the 7th, although he likes to share his secrets. But anyway, what we can say is that he's a very deep natured person, very, very deep feeling. And 8th house, sun, Mercury, any planets are going to suffer crises. So we could say that his life was difficult, and he suffered a lot of crushing blows because of this 8th house influence. Like, it's not like these other celebrities who are just, have so much success they don't know what to do with themselves. I mean, he did have a lot of success, but he also had a lot of hardship, right? I mean, being blind is pretty difficult. He's got a grand fire trine, and he's super cheery and super positive. and very soulful, right? So a lot of that comes from the 8th house. But there is this, so Venus is the 8th lord, and it's the ascendant lord, and it is semi-square Sun and Mercury. So that is a challenge. That is a difficult thing. So yeah. And then Moon is semi-square Jupiter. Jupiter is ruling the 6th house, so certain health issues. And I don't know what. I think that the sun would relate to the eyes. I'm just saying, because light, sun, but I didn't study medical astrology. It's something I'm gonna have to get to at some point. But yeah, Moon opposite Neptune. That's great for creativity. Neptune conjunct the ascendant, South Node conjunct the ascendant. In any case, we can see the voice connection with Mars connecting to Mercury and Sun here, and making him very intellectual and creative voice, good singing. Right. Yes. Sun conjunct Mercury is also gonna be very quick-minded too. It's gonna really speed up the mind. It's gonna make them kind of like Gemini and Virgo quality. Yeah. I would say this: if it's Sun conjunct Mercury retrograde, it's a bit more Virgo-ish. If it's Sun conjunct Mercury prograde direct, it's a bit more Gemini. Let's put it that way. Yeah. All right, now we're gonna go to Gemini, and who has it in Gemini? Marilyn Monroe, Liam Neeson, Helena Bonham Carter, Elizabeth Hurley, and Jean-Paul Sartre. He was a philosopher, kind of a crazy one. But Gemini can be a crazy sign. A lot of crazies are Gemini. A lot of crazies are Aquarius too, though. Air signs. Libras tend to be a little more balanced. All right. Gemini Sun conjunct Mercury. Gemini. So 11th house, career success, groups, networks. So she wasn't just this model, this actress. She also ran stuff. Like she started her own like movie production company or something. Like, and I'm not exactly sure the details, but like she was a boss, right? And she was super intelligent, right? Very intellectual, very intelligent, wanted to run shit. That's 11th house. I mean, 10th house is like, big boss, not boss necessarily, but big, huge career, public image. 11th house is groups and networks. So Sun in the 11th wants to lead a group, right? And she did that, successfully. And it's kind of hard to see here, but she's got a bunch of quintiles, and quintiles are a very creative aspect. I'll just go here, show you. See, quintile, 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 right? But quintiles are very creative. Otherwise, her Sun and Mercury are unaspected, but they have some pretty strong quintiles. One to Uranus and Pisces, and one to Neptune and Leo. Neptune and Leo, this is very glamorous. This is one of the reasons. And then I think the quintile between Neptune and the Sun is why she's so like, I mean, Neptune often, especially in women, it doesn't do it in men, but in women, especially conjunct the ascendant or somehow connected to the ascendant, really creates a lot of glamour, right? Beauty, glamour. It's sort of like a higher expression of Venus. And it does that. A strong Venus will make somebody beautiful. Strong Neptune for a woman will make them glamorous, right? She has her Venus in Aries. It's not in good dignity, but it is conjunct Chiron, which is interesting. So it gives her an interesting look, because Venus for a woman is going to influence her look. But the look comes from Neptune in Leo on the ascendant, connected to her ascendant lord and Sun by a quintile, right? That's important. And then we're connecting the Pisces too, which Neptune is the one of the co-rulers of, with a quintile to Uranus and Pisces, Mars and Pisces. And then Mars and Uranus are accidental. They are in the 8th house. That is difficult. And Mars has an inconjunct to Neptune, drugs and alcohol, and Uranus has an inconjunct, a sesquisquare to the ascendant. So that's dangerous, okay? And then this moon, Neptune, Saturn, that's very difficult as well, because Neptune, drugs and alcohol, moon, the sensitivity, the satisfaction. I mean, first of all, moon and Jupiter in the 7th shows that she was loved by people because it's such a good combination. Also, Aquarius is sense of humor. She could be funny, especially with Gemini, Sun, and Mercury. But the square to Saturn in Scorpio in the 4th is very dangerous. You know, this is like drugs and alcohol and like death, you know. And it's connected to this Mars as well in the 8th house. It's a bad combination. And North Node Pluto. I mean, North Node Pluto alone won't do it, but when you start stacking up these things, it's like, wow, this person is really on thin ice. It could break at any moment, kind of thing. Yeah, it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And then Pluto has bad aspect to you know, it's not exact, but to Jupiter, it's a sesquisquare, and then so that would make her more depressed, right? Dark, heavy, negative. Yeah, and that's only one to Pluto. In any case, you can see her rise and her fall in this chart. Very difficult. But Mercury is ruling 2nd house for acting and 11th for groups, networks, career success, both money houses. So she probably made a lot of money. All right, Marilyn Monroe. All right, let's move right along. We're going to go to Cancer, and we got Margot Robbie, who, if you don't know, she was Harley Quinn, right? In the latest rendition of that whole comic book series. Liam Neeson. No, sorry. I already read that. No, sorry. Margot Robbie. Camilla, who is King Charles's wife. Jessica Simpson, Liv Tyler, Ricky Gervais, Marcel Proust, who is a French author, Brigitte Nielsen, I think she's an actress, and then Giorgio Armani, the famous designer. But we're going to look at Margot Robbie, Harley Quinn. She was great in that, I thought. I thought she was this other actress who, I can't remember her name. She was in My Name is Earl. Same look. They look almost identical. I thought it was that girl, the one in My Name is Earl. She's been in a lot of stuff too. She would have been perfect for that as well. In any case, Margot Robbie. Yeah, she's got a loaded 1st house, even though it's in the 12th, which is, you know, better for creativity and acting quadrant. It's you know, it's flowing right into the 1st house with Jupiter, exalted Jupiter, right on the ascendant. I mean, this is really powerful. It's, you know, bonifying the ascendant and making her really, you know, really strong character. Chiron is here, so excellent for those chironic roles. Harley Quinn, right? Comic book, fictional. So yeah, that's great. And so Sun is conjunct Mercury in Cancer. So this can be more of an emotional expression, but you know, very expressive nonetheless. This would lead more to less intellectual, although Cancer can be intellectual, but I think generally speaking, it's going to be less intellectual, more expressive. Really, the expression with the Sun and Mercury together is going to be really strong. Right. Moon's in Scorpio, so dark. She can play those dark roles well. Right. And Moon, even though it's not in degree range, is still bonifying this whole the ascendant and all these planets by trine, so that's good. And then Pluto, even more so. Pluto and Scorpio. connecting to Chiron and Jupiter and the ascendant and the sun a little wider, but Chiron especially. So definitely some dark vibes there. She can portray that in her acting career pretty well. Venus and Gemini. For a character like Harley Quinn, Venus and Gemini seems very appropriate because Venus and Gemini is just so carefree, and her the character Harley Quinn is just like carefree. It's very Venus and Gemini. Right? And then Mars and Aries, perfect. I mean, you know, this is 10th whole sign house. It's square the ascendant, so it's like very. I think squares to Mars are generally okay unless it's retrograde, then the person's really angry. But squares to Mars really makes Mars fight and work hard. And it's the 10th whole sign house, 9th quadrant, so it's going to do really well there. In any case, Sun is ruling the 2nd house, so that's good. Voice speaking, and Mercury the third whole sign house, and the 11th and 12th quadrant cusp. So that's interesting. Definitely good for acting. And there is an opposition to Uranus and Neptune in Capricorn, which makes it even more interesting, her personality. It's in the 6th house, so I'm not sure that, I mean, Neptune in the 6th generally relates to invisible things, like talking about health. It could be like disease, some hidden disease. Uranus, unfortunately, can be accidents. So I wish the best for her. I can't really make any predictions based on that, but in any case, it's also in conjunct Venus and Uranus. So that's pretty shocking as far as her personality goes. And Venus is ruling the MC and 3rd, so definitely create very shocking character. So, and that's good for, you know, good for movies, very dramatic. All right, so that's Margot Robbie. Let's go to Leo. I'll just read this off. In Leo, we got J-Lo, Jennifer Lopez, Marine Le Pen. She's the French politician. I don't know if she was elected or not. I haven't been following that. I think she was running for prime minister or president or something. Jacqueline Kennedy, Jason Momoa, Cole Sprouse, Benito Mussolini, Amy Adams, Gillian Anderson, and Lane Staley. He was the singer for Alice in Chains. Let's do Jackie Kennedy. Mostly because it's really interesting to look at her chart in relation to JFK. Right. So Scorpio ascendant, South Node in Scorpio, kind of not too different from, oh yeah, it is different. Mine's North Node. In any case, North Node in the 7th in Taurus, right? Conjunct Chiron. We've seen this before. Grace Kelly had this basically with Taurus, North Node, and Chiron. And isn't that amazing? I'll tell you why. Because, okay, first of all, she marries a president. Grace Kelly married a prince. Then, second, after JFK died, she married a billionaire trader, Onassis, Onassis, right? So there's something about this, you know, North Node in Taurus representing wealth, materialism, like all the, you know, sensuality of Taurus, right? The riches. Chiron being so unique, one of a kind. So a really rich one of a kind person, like a prince or like a president or like a billionaire, you know, businessman. It's amazing, right? But then if you look at, I know I'm not even talking about her son, but I just want to look at this for a second. So Venus in Gemini, but 7th Lord in the 8th house. 7th Lord in the house of death, partner death. You get that? This is not just a coincidence. I'll tell you why. I have the 7th Lord in the 8th house. Yeah. My relationships do not end well. My ex-girlfriend died. So it's real. It can happen. And it doesn't mean it will happen if you have this. It means it can happen, right? We all have our karmas, and the karmas are playing out. And it depends, there's so many factors. So don't freak out if you have it or know somebody who has it and be like, oh my God, they have a partner. The partner's going to die. Not necessarily. Okay. Just want to throw that out there. But Sun conjunct Mercury in Leo. This is a great combination because Sun is in domicile in Leo. Sun in Leo is very, very confident, very comfortable. They really know how to get things done in worldly ways because they're just so sure of themselves. It's like, it's not even a question. You see more arrogance coming from other signs than Leo. Leo has it, of course, but it's less, they don't need to overstate it because it's just so obvious to them and to everyone else. They radiate it, right? So it's like, I don't need to brag. I mean, my aura does it for me, you know what I mean? That's the kind of thing, because you'll see that with, like, I mean, some of them, for whatever reason, might have certain insecurities, so they need to push their sort of ego and greatness, but it's a good combination, right? Very expressive, very creative, tons of confidence. Let's see, Mercury's ruling the 8th house, so that's not so great, but the Sun is ruling the 10th house, so that's great for being seen, being heard, being noticed. And she wasn't really, I guess she's just a rich girl from a rich family, and that's why, the JFK married her. I don't really know much about her, but like, what has she done on her own? She just attracts, these really rich, powerful men, right? So in any case, Mercury's ruling the 8th and the 11th. So that's really interesting, pulling in some deep, dark, heavy energy with this 8th house. And the 11th is quite good. Networking, career success, politics, social, political, minded. Neptune conjunct the MC. That's great for creativity. Not so good for being honest with the public, in any case. 9th house, very adventurous, religious, philosophical. Yeah. In any case, I think that's the most interesting thing about Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, is that she's got this, her relationships, right? Ascendant Lord in Virgo, Mars in the 10th house. That's quite good, quite strong. Trine Chiron in the North Node, which is quite good. Yeah. She's powerful, I'll say that, because she's got a really nice relationship with Pluto, with the nodes and her ascendant. So she can be quite manipulative, controlling, and masterminding, very deep thinking. Pluto really loves to control and loves to be psychological in how they go about things. All right. Let's move right along to Virgo. And we got Keanu Reeves, Amy Winehouse, Nick Jonas, Adam Sandler, Karl Lagerfeld, who is Chanel, Mr. Chanel guy, created Chanel. Chris Pine, he is an actor. I forget what he did. I know him. I just can't remember right now. Rose McGowan and Macaulay Culkin. Now this combination is really good. Everyone loves, everyone loves Keanu Reeves. I mean, a lot of people love Keanu Reeves, and a lot of people love this combination because Mercury is exalted and in domicile. Gets extra bonus points for being in Virgo. It does so well. It's so smart. Such an articulate, Virgo is the most humble sign of all. It really is, because Leo's in the 12th. No, that's not saying that all Virgos, they can't exhibit, they can't exhibit arrogance or cockiness. They can, depends on a whole host of factors. But overall, Virgo definitely has the most humble orientation out of all the signs. It's kind of the underdog of the astrology. Why? Because it's in the 6th house, so it's a relationship sign, 6th position. It's a relationship sign, but it's coming underneath, and it's virginal, and it's beginning the relationship, where it's like very humble, staying small, serving others, and if it needs to fight, then it can fight. It's very aggressive, but more from an underdog kind of, little dog mentality, kind of like, like how little dogs are all like barky and bitey, want to bite your ankles. That's the kind of energy that Virgo comes on with. And it's not saying that they can't do damage. A lot of times Virgos can be very, very, fighty and win fights, but they're coming from underneath. They're coming from a bit of inferiority. Right. But Keanu Reeves has Pluto on the ascendant, conjunct Uranus. This is a very potent combination. Then he's got Mercury and Sun. Interesting thing is that, like, we'll see these other people with this combination, these rockers. We got Kurt Cobain, Billy Corgan of the Smashing Pumpkins, and Dave Navarro of Jane's Addiction. And these are all these dark, heavy rockers, right? With similar combination. But they don't have Sun and Mercury and Virgo. They have different, they're Pisces. I forget what Dave Navarro is. Oh, he's a Gemini. But the Virgo is really taming this. Virgo Sun and Mercury is really taming Keanu Reeves, right? He's very humble, and very powerful at the same time. Very dynamic. I mean, that's this whole 1st house stellium with Mercury here. Mercury does great, not only in Virgo, but conjunct the ascendant, and it's a little wide, but not too bad. Actually, 5 degrees, so that's not bad at all. It is retrograde, so that is going to make him even more different, right? And Keanu Reeves has that quality. Like, he doesn't go along with the Hollywood crowd. He's independent. He's doing his own thing. That's very much Uranus and Pluto, but it's also Mercury retrograde, because Mercury is ruling Virgo, and it's tightly conjunct the Sun. It's basically Cazimi. So Sun conjunct Mercury, Cazimi, and that's even more interesting. Then Uranus is so close to this, and so is Pluto and the ascendant. It's very tight, this conjunction, this stellium, really. Now there is a semi-square to Venus, which is unfortunate, and that's this sort of unhappiness that we feel about him, that he kind of exudes, and this kind of sob story, especially this Venus in Cancer, semi-square the Sun and Mercury and Uranus, like these accidents, and Pluto, because this is his joy. Venus is his joy, his love, his women, right? And there were these, I think, I don't even remember, like his wife died, and then was his girlfriend, and then a child. So it's all very sad, right? And that's, we can see that with the Pluto, Uranus, which are accidental death combinations, and being in tight conjunction with the Sun and Mercury, and then the semi-square to Venus, and then Mars playing in there, Moon as well, right? Moon in Cancer, bonifying the 11th house. Mercury, bonifying the MC, as well as the North Node in the 10th house. He's not going away. North Node in the 10th are just obsessed with their career, with being seen, with being heard, with being recognized, with being famous. And look at this powerful kite he's got going on. Grand Water Trine, capped by this powerful Virgo stellium. So, I mean, Keanu Reeves is just going to get better and better and better. When he was young, he was a bit laughed at, a bit like just kind of like this California boy, like ditzy. But nobody's laughing now. Everyone's like, whoa, Keanu Reeves, like, he's the man. Right. Powerful career. Powerful persona. Sun is ruling the 12th house. That's great for creativity. In movies, Mercury is ruling the MC and the ascendant. So again, just, tremendous chart, huge success. And I don't predict any downfall for this man. He's had some hard times, but he's going to have a continuing, his career will just continue to bloom and blossom and thrive. All right, let's go to Libra. And in Libra, we have John Mayer, Amitabh Bachchan, who is he's the Bollywood Indian film star. I guess maybe the Keanu Reeves of Bollywood or something similar. Rita Hayworth, Silvio Berlusconi, he was a PM of Italy. Christopher Reeve, who is Superman, and Neil deGrasse Tyson, the scientist. And we're going to look at Neil deGrasse Tyson, not because I like him, but because we need to look at everyone. And why not? He is a scientist, and Mercury conjunct the sun is going to be very intellectual, right? So we don't just want to pull up one kind of person. All right. So strong 10th house, Venus in Libra is bonifying this whole 10th house, as well as North Node in Libra. I mean, Sun is not great in Libra. Mercury is okay. It's an air sign, so it does fine. Saturn in the first, Saturn semi-square Jupiter, and that's for a scientific philosopher, that's good. Like you want Saturn with Mercury is going to be like a more hardcore scientist, but Saturn with Jupiter is going to be a bit more philosophical. I don't believe a lot of, I think he's just a player. I think he's just like a media darling, new world order sort of mouthpiece. He just put out whatever he'll make a case for climate change, climate disaster, which is all nonsense. It's 100% baloney. So I don't think he's like, I think he is a real scientist, but I think he's bought and paid for 100% and just says whatever they want him to say, right? So I don't think he's going to really put out some truth, but he is in the spotlight, right? So he's got a very strong 10th house. Neptune is sextile Pluto. That's got to be good for imagination and thinking. Excuse me. Jupiter in Scorpio, which is the ascendant lord. Scorpio is good for science because Scorpio is the sign that loves to take things apart and see how they work together, right? See all the pieces and how they fit. It's digging deep and seeing what's going on. Moon in Cancer, trine Jupiter. That's excellent, right? Moon is Jupiter's exaltation lord of Cancer. Moon is domicile lord. So Mars in Gemini in the sixth, moving into the seventh. That's good. Excuse me. Sun ruling 9th house. So for education, higher education, teaching, that's all very good. And Mercury ruling the MC, career, and the 7th. Yeah, so very good for relating to people, communicating, teaching, career, big career, and all that. Intellectual, scientific, obviously, the show, but deeply driven. And he doesn't really portray this very well, but the guy is very, very motivated. If you ever see a square between Pluto and Mars, now especially if one is retrograde, he's not retrograded either. So he's a bit more, he's going to be a bit more, it's not going to be like digging his heels and really going against something, really fighting. But this is a highly motivated combination because, Pluto rules the deepest desires and Mars is our ability to physically fight or initiate things. So 6th house, Mars, it's quite strong. It's also influencing the 7th. So he's pushy, he's aggressive, he's verbally aggressive, right? Both ruled by Mercury, Virgo and Gemini, and Mercury conjunct the sun. So he's going to really fight for his cause or his belief or whatever it is. he's also a bit crazy, I gotta say, because this Chiron's in Aquarius, it's retrograde, it's opposite Uranus, and it's sesquisquare Venus. Especially that, and it's in the third house, or conjunct the third cusp. So his intellect is definitely way out there, and this opposition kind of makes me think like he's a bit nuts, because it's retrograde, it's opposite Uranus, it's in Aquarius. Brilliant in some ways, but there's a fine line between brilliance and insanity, right? He's a bit wacky, he's a bit nutty. You can count on that. All right. That's Neil deGrasse Tyson. Crazy scientist, mad scientist. Let's go to Scorpio. And in Scorpio, we got Jodie Foster, The Silence of the Lambs, Sophie Marceau, Gerard Butler, Lord, not God, not Allah, not Hashem, but Lord the singer. Right? Frank Ocean. I don't know if he's related to Billy Ocean, but he's also a singer or hip hop rapper. I don't even know. Jeff Buckley and Joni Mitchell. But let's look at Jodie Foster. I'm sorry if I'm not sorry, but like I'm just not up on modern artists. I just don't care. I don't even want to know what they sound like, pretty much. But all right, Jodie Foster. The only role I know her in is Silence of the Lambs, right? And she's perfect for this, right? Sun conjunct Mercury in Scorpio in the 12th house, conjunct Venus and Neptune. Oh my God. And Venus is retrograde, so her sense of beauty, sense of style is all going to be like dark and twisted, like going like different, very different. She's got an intense chart. Mars is trine the ascendant in the 9th in Leo. It's generally good, even though Mars does okay in fire signs, I think, because it's trine, it's domicile in Aries. But let's see here. Jupiter in Pisces. So Jupiter's in domicile. The ascendant lord's in domicile. That's bonifying the ascendant. That's great. All right. It's conjunct Chiron, so she can definitely play those role. It's and Pisces is great for movies, and conjunct Chiron, it can really lend itself to out of the box character, development sort of thing. Jupiter conjunct Chiron really expands that, especially in Pisces, in the 3rd house. So expression. It's going to create very big creative expression and original, unique. Saturn's in Aquarius conjunct the South Node. That's good. Saturn's in domicile. And then Moon and Virgo conjunct Neptune or Uranus and Pluto. That's difficult. And I don't know her personal story, but it's the 10th whole sign house, so that's good. But there are definitely deep mental emotional disturbance going on. I mean, electric kind of mind and very deep thinking, but like Pluto conjunct Moon is extremely difficult, and it's it's a little bit padded here between, I guess, I don't know if Uranus really counts as padding, but Uranus conjunct the Moon definitely creates crazy, but very highly aware. Yeah, the Moon is definitely sensitive to this Uranus, so it's probably very hypersensitive, I would say, especially in Virgo, and highly critical. Definitely very intense person, and polarizing, with the Pisces and the Virgo. Definitely two sides to her, split personality kind of, but very dark as well. Sun is ruling the ninth cusp. So that's pretty good. Although it's ruling, well, yeah, Moon is more ruling the eighth. Ooh, that's difficult for her Moon. Yeah, so Sun, so ninth house is going to be, it's going to be kind of sophisticated. It's bringing in the philosophical, higher educated, religious kind of nature, but it's still quite prominent in the sky and generally does well for career. When we're talking about ninth house, Mercury ruling 10th whole sign house, not a cusp here, and 7th house. So 7th house is great for any sort of connecting with people. So for movies alike, as well as music or speaking, anything like that, business, relationships. Yeah, she might have a foreign relationship or some, I don't know. I mean, it could be foreign, but it's definitely close to her sun. So, and travels, maybe, I don't know, maybe she meets her husband while traveling in a foreign land or something like that. Venus square Mars, but Mars ruling Scorpio. That's interesting. I'm not sure what to make of that, except that it does reflect on her sexuality. Yeah, I mean, she might have some weird sexual preferences in any case. That's Jodie Foster. Excellent for those darker roles. Let's see. Guys, I'm just gonna pause it for 1 minute. I'll be right back. Sorry about that. All right. Jodie Foster. This would be excellent also, this combination for science, astrology, occultism, not particular to Jodie Foster, but just, Sun conjunct Mercury in Scorpio. Right. Any sort of research, psychology, things like that. All right. Let's go to Sagittarius. And who has in Sagittarius? Emmanuel Macron, Jimi Hendrix, Tina Turner, Frank Sinatra, Ludwig van Beethoven, Edith Piaf, and Chrissy Teigen. And I want to look at Tina Turner. That's what I chose. We're going to do it. Now I don't know the current status of Tina Turner. I don't know if she died. Did she die? I don't know. But she's certainly an interesting persona. And look at her chart, man, riddled with red lines. Difficult. You could say that, difficult. And we're not going to go over all of it, but we know that she did have an abusive relationship. Incredible success with a few very powerful songs, and then she turned to Hindu chanting, and she made some music from that and became more spiritually oriented, which is great. And we can see that her Jupiter is in Pisces, and it is in the 8th house, right? So that's significant, and it is poorly connected. It's in conjunct, but directly connected to her north node. So we'll see. We know that that's going to happen as she gets older, right? More spiritual, mystical vibe. Right? So that is the case. The Sun is ruling her. Sun is her ascendant lord. It's conjunct Mercury in Sagittarius in, well, the 4th, but basically 5th house, because it's conjunct the 5th house cusp in the 5th whole sign house, right? And so that's trining the ascendant, basically. So it's very good for entertainment, creativity, all that. Mercury is ruling the 11th house, career success, groups, networks, all that. Moon's also in Gemini. Moon's in Gemini, exactly opposite Mercury. So Mercury is totally connecting to Gemini, bonifying this moon, which is excellent. Moon ruling the 12th house for creativity. Yeah, that's great. Mercury also ruling the 2nd house. So that's interesting. Mercury ruling the 2nd house for a singer, but it's in detriment and retrograde. So let's look at this. Neptune's there, and that's okay. That's not bad, right? Neptune's not going to hurt the voice. I have Neptune in the 2nd, and I also have some Taurus planets, and well, she's got MC in Taurus, and then Uranus in Taurus, but I don't know if that alone would be enough to make her such a powerful singer. So what else? Well, the moon exactly conjunct or exactly opposite Mercury in Gemini. So that's connecting Mercury to Gemini and her sun, which is her ascendant lord. Yeah, I mean that has to be it, because there's no other, Mercury is domicile lord and exaltation lord. So it's got to be Mercury. I mean, first of all, Sun, which is her ascendant lord, is conjunct Mercury, so that's already connecting her with her voice. Yeah. I mean, we could look at these other aspects, but they're not really. The other powerful one would be Neptune opposite Jupiter, while Jupiter is in Pisces. Right, Jupiter's very strong here, and it's just it's connecting Neptune. Neptune's also domicile lord of Pisces, so somehow that's bonifying this. Not somehow, it is bonifying this Neptune. It's making this Neptune and the 2nd house better. So clearly there are many ways to make a good house. It's not just, oh, look to the, are there any planets in good dignity in the house, and look at the ascendant lord, look at the lord of that house, is that in good dignity? If not, then no, the house is no good. Well, no, you have to look a little bit deeper, and we have to, real life kind of trumps whatever, philosophy you have about how things are supposed to work. All right. Venus trine Saturn. That's quite good. Let's see here. Yeah, I mean, there's so much to look at. It's kind of like making me dizzy, and it would take too long to break it all down. But yeah, really tight square between Mars and the Sun. That's going to be problematic, because Mars generally represents men. Saturn is, if we look at, I don't really know that much about our relationship, but I think it was abusive, right? So Saturn's in poor dignity here in conjunct the South Node. Saturn in Aries is very, very strict, hard, selfish, self-serving. In any case. So yeah, it seems like when she got older, her North Node was activated, activated Libra, and the in conjunct to Jupiter and Pisces. This Venus, so 5th house, which is fine, Venus, but it's also Sag, so Jupiter again, in any case. Yeah, so that's Tina Turner. Interesting character. A really nice trine between Pluto and the Sun. Pluto's in Leo, so that's going to make her pretty powerful, very strong. Very definitely having that Plutonic controlling vibe. So she's pretty controlling herself, no doubt. But in any case, let's move along. All right, Capricorn. We got Nostradamus, Joan Baez, Denzel Washington, Zooey Deschanel, Anthony Hopkins, Edgar Allan Poe, Jimmy Page, and Cary Grant. And we're going to look at Nostradamus. Just one thing I forgot to say is, like, So, okay, her Mercury's retrograde, so she's going to be a bit more defiant, right? What's her hit song? What's Love Got to Do with It, right? So that's sort of a retrograde song because it's like it's a love song, but from a negative kind of point of view, right? But also Sagittarius, right? Mercury's in detriment Sag. So then again, so something kind of either very philosophical or a negative expression of Mercury. But anyways, we're gonna look at Nostradamus. And again, that combination would be good for anything that is Jupiterian, Sagittarian, right? Because it's just a narrow focus when a planet's not in good dignity. It misbehaves or is just very, very narrowly good at something. All right. Nostradamus. So he's got his nodes basically on the ascendant, although out of sign. Grand. Well, yeah, I mean, it's not really a grand trine, but so he's got two different things going on. First of all, Pluto is trining the ascendant very powerfully. So this extremely powerful psychological mind in Sagittarius, so very big thinking, philosophical, ninth house, right? That's the first thing. And then Moon in Scorpio in the eighth house. Moon is the most psychic planet. So you always want to understand if somebody has that psychic. I believe we're all psychic, but certain people have combinations that lend themselves to psychic, right? There's different kinds of psychic. He's mystical psychic, connecting to the other world in a very literal way, right? And then he's got all the water signs represented. Jupiter in Cancer, Saturn, Mars. These aren't so great, but Jupiter is in Chiron, and they're all retrograde too. Which is certainly interesting. But then the trine, and then the Saturn is exactly trine this moon. And then Uranus and Pisces closest to Jupiter by 2 degrees. And in Uranus is very high intuition, right? It still can, especially in a water sign, the 12th house. And these are all water houses, 4th, 8th, 12th, water signs. It's gonna be very, very psychic, very powerfully psychic. So yeah, then we look to the Sun and Mercury. He's also very intellectual and in a captain, a boss, a Capricorn. Capricorn, captain, same thing. So he's going to be, large and in charge, no business, take no prisoners, but also very intellectual and very clever. He wrote his quatrains in sort of coded language. I guess metaphorical or what's the word? Encrypted, basically. Because of the church at that time, who would have killed him if they were able to understand what he was actually doing. But he was extremely psychic, tapping into the nether realms, and figuring out all sorts of very timelines that may or may not have happened. That's the thing about all psychics, is that they're not 100% going to be able to predict the future unless something is already set in motion that can't be changed. A lot of things that they can be changed, right? But like if you throw a ball and it's in midair, it's going to hit its target, and that's the kind of thing where it's like, this is going to happen, barring unforeseen circumstances. But a psychic should be able to see that, right? Unless something throws the ball off course, it's going to hit the spot. Based on the direction it's thrown in, the speed, all the different factors, right? It's already a done deal basically. But a lot of things are not done deals. There are potentials that may or may not happen, right? And it's the same for all psychics. No psychic can ever be 100% about everything. Yeah. Also Aquarius is great for sort of mystical endeavors. All the water signs and Aquarius usually, and Uranus. And then Venus and Aquarius, and Venus has a really nice sextile relationship with Pluto and the ascendant by 1 degree. So that's quite good. And then Neptune also within range of Mercury. But let's see, Sun is ruling 5th house. 5th house is good for a lot of things, including spirituality. Yeah, it is, because it's trying the 9th house. So it does have an element, it's in spiritual sort of like rituals and things like that, old books. It has a certain correlation with spiritual mystical practices. And Mercury ruling the 6th house and the 3rd house. So it's a very intellectual Mercury. So he's very, very smart, right? And he's got a South Node in Virgo. Very, very smart, very psychic, and a boss man for the ages, who will always be remembered because it's very powerful 10th house. North Node in Pisces. I mean, additionally for the psychic quality. All right. So that is Nostradamus. His quatrains, I mean, just back to the Sun conjunct Mercury, they're so intelligent. I was going to say intellectual, but it's actually very extremely intelligent and intellectual, right? And so that as well as a mercurial quality. And his Mercury is retrograde, and so he was in defiance of the ruling class, which was the religious class of the times, because they certainly would have killed him if they knew what he was doing. Yeah. And so it takes audacity, it takes defiance, and that you'll see with retrograde planets. Plus, it's the 6th house, the house of fighting. In Capricorn, a trine Capricorn, very, very serious, ambitious sign. No nonsense. All right. That is Capricorn. Let's look at Aquarius. Sharon Tate. She's an actress, I think. Paris Hilton. Mozart. Taylor Lautner. Taylor Lautner. I think he's an actor. Sometimes I write these down and I look them up and then I forget. I think wasn't he like the werewolf in the glitter vampire movie? Yeah. I can't even remember. What was it called? I don't remember. Axl Rose, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Gia Carangi, and Portia de Rossi. I think I honestly can't remember. Anyway, he doesn't matter. We're gonna look at Mozart. I have a very selective memory. I only remember things that I want to remember. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, true genius. Okay, and he's got a South Node conjunct Uranus, 7th house Pisces. And South Node conjunct Uranus sometimes represents true genius. It can also represent humor, which I hear he was very humorous, right? Very funny. And also uniqueness, independence, revolutionary type. Also music and rhythm, right, for Uranus, but also politics and social issues, right? So it's multi-leveled. But Uranus is co-ruling Aquarius, and his Sun and Mercury and Saturn are all in Aquarius. Saturn is also domicile, Lord of Aquarius. So very strong Aquarian 6th house, right? 5th, 6th. Trail end of the 5th, moving into the 6th. So brilliant, right? Aquarius winning good dignity, genius. And then Venus, of course, also in Aquarius. So he's very Uranian, very Aquarian, right? And child prodigy, south node Uranus, early life Uranus, Aquarius, right? Just the child prodigy, genius. Right? So intellectual. And then Sun is ruling the 12th house, with disposited by or Sun's dispositing Neptune in Leo in the 12th. That's highly creative as well. Neptune opposite Sun and Mercury, and Sun bonifying this Neptune from the 6th, 5th, 6th. But it's also bonifying the Sun because the connection to Leo. It works both ways, right? Some people say it's just one way. In my experience, it's both. Yeah, that's how it makes sense. Mercury is the ascendant lord and also the north node, ruling the north node. And the MC lord, so career. So very strong combination here. The Sun, ascendant lord, MC lord in the 5th, 6th, opposite Neptune. Highly creative, bona fide by Saturn in domicile in Aquarius, right? Yeah, brilliant. And then look at this, Moon exactly conjunct Pluto. Wow. That is also semi-square. Sorry, I always say that. Saturn by 1 degree. Wait, is that? It would have to be. It's a little more than 1 degree, I think. Any case. That seems really difficult. And so I don't know that much about like any of these people really, because I don't study people in depth, but I know a little bit about everyone because I'm a Gemini. So it is what it is. Right? That's got to be really difficult, especially as a child. But the Jupiter is sextile within 1 degree, so that's really good. That's bonifying it because Jupiter rules Sag. So I don't know, maybe he had some difficulties early on, even though I heard he was a child prodigy, and you can see a lot of that. Venus trine Mars. Well, Mars is in 0 degrees Cancer. That's not so great. So bit of a wild man with this Mars in Cancer at 0 degrees. Maybe the trine between Mars and Venus is really good for relationship with women because it's trine. So it's like he's Mars, Venus is women, and so it creates a nice strong sexuality, right? But Mars in Cancer might be, and I think I recall this in the movies, like it's overly sexual, right? Sexually, or because Mars in Cancer can be violent and hypersexual. So hypersexual, and definitely like the women are gonna like him too because of this trine. It's out of sign, but still like strong, powerful sexuality. Sure. In any case, yeah. The most difficult thing is this moon. Definitely some mental disturbance, but true genius for sure. And then Chiron, exactly, trine the north node and the ascendant, sextile Uranus and south node and descendant. So very good relationship with this Chiron, personal and with other, showing the very high level of creative genius, if you will, or one of a kind, kind of out of the box level of awareness of expression. 5th house, right? So okay, let's move on. Definitely a genius. I used to listen to Mozart, so I'm familiar with his music. He's brilliant. No denial there. Pisces, Elizabeth Taylor, Juliette Binoche, Kesha, Johnny Cash, Hozier, John Hamm, Joseph Mengele, and Spike Lee. And just a quick word about this combination in general. Sun conjunct Mercury in Aquarius, going to be extremely bright, extremely intelligent, extremely intellectual. These are going to be very, 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 thinking type people, highly intellectual. Maybe crazy, depending on how it's, aspected, because Sun is opposite, Sun's in detriment. So there is that. But, me being a fellow air sign, I can certainly relate. And I love my Aquarians, my Aquarius suns, and a bit nutty, but highly aware and highly intelligent, or rather, I should say intellectual. Intelligent in my language, the way I define it, is something different. It's a bit more Jupiterian. In any case, very intellectual, very intellectually creative. All right, let's go to Elizabeth Taylor. Alrighty, Liz Taylor. Okay, so Sun conjunct Mercury, Cazimi. Sun Cazimi Mercury in Pisces. So Mercury does not do so well in Pisces, detriment and debilitation, because it's opposite Virgo, domicile and exaltation. However, Sun and Mercury are exactly opposite Neptune in Virgo. So that is good, especially for Mercury, because now Mercury's touching home base, right? Connecting to Virgo, and South Node's also Virgo. And so that's giving that a good connection with reality, because Mercury in Pisces can be very unrealistic, really lacking logic, highly creative, highly expressive, good for movies, good for arts, good for any sort of creativity, good for psychic work too. Mercury is the other planet besides the moon that can be very psychic. And I tell you right now, this woman is very intuitive, if not outright psychic, but could also be mental health issues, especially with the square to Jupiter and in conjunct to Uranus. Yeah, but sometimes if Mercury is not well aspected, these people can hear voices, like in schizophrenia. Yeah. Or it can be very psychic. But she's got a grand fire trine, so great energy, right? Great charisma, great fire. Fire, people love fire, right? It's very inspiring, it's warming, it's bright, it shines. It's great for being seen and heard, and for, rallying up the energy of other people. Whether it's, Leo, which Leo is just big and bright and loving and lovable, right? And lightens up everyone's day. Aries is like fireworks, right? So inspiring, so much energy. And Sag is just, full of wisdom and adventure and so much fun. So all the fire signs are great energy. Let's see. Sun and Pisces. Sun's ruling. It's not ruling a cusp here, but it's dispositing Jupiter. And not making an aspect, but it's still good. Jupiter is the ascendant lord. So Jupiter is, yeah. Oh, so that's mutual reception, between Sun and Jupiter. So that's really good. All right, that's bonifying with the Sun and Jupiter. And so Sun is ruling the 9th whole sign house. And then Mercury is ruling the 10th whole sign house, but 9th cusp. So a lot of 9th, 10th action there. And the 7th in the 3rd. So communication. 3rd, 4th, home. She likes to be at home, Elizabeth Taylor, but she's also very great expression. Mercury is expressive. Pisces is very creative, great for movies. Mars is also there. So, I mean, I love her in movies. I think she's fantastic. And it really comes through this sort of extremely feminine woman who's also like mean spirited, but like in a way that makes her, I don't know, like she can just be all kinds of things and it works so well. She's got that Scorpio moon, so she can be kind of dark and broody. It well, it's trying widely trying Pluto and Cancer. Pluto's retrograde. A little bit of a square between Pluto and Uranus, which that's not great. Pluto's retrograde. When Pluto's retrograde square another planet, that's a person's really, really digging their heels in, like digging their heels in to the point where they're willing to die for whatever they're fighting against, because it's like the deepest desire for control. And Uranus, it's the fourth house, so fourth cusp, conjunct Venus. Yeah, there's some deep struggle internal with her fifth, sixth, maybe with her children, or her work or her career. There's struggles. It's in the eighth house, eighth cusp. She's fighting against something. Could be her role as a woman, related to her being a woman. Maybe she's not getting what she feels she deserves, relative to her career and her talent, or money issues. The eighth house, shared resources. Maybe it's related to a relationship. Who knows? There's definitely going to be some depression with, Moon in Scorpio square Jupiter in Leo. But Moon and Jupiter together, even by square, is still good. And this Moon in Scorpio is opposite Chiron. Well, not that tight, but probably not very great. In conjunct Uranus, that's not great. Perhaps a bit nutty, perhaps a bit mentally imbalanced. But in any case, that's all right. We forgive her. Certainly delusional, but very creative, very wonderful actress. Saturn at 0 degrees Aquarius in the second house. So good for speaking and acting, and communicating, expressing, all that. Yeah. That is Mercury conjunct Sun, Sun conjunct Mercury, right? And there's so many different ways it can express itself depending on house and sign. And hopefully I've touched on enough points to give you a picture of what it can mean for you if you have it, or if you know somebody who has it, right? Okay. That wraps this one up. So guys, I hope you liked it. Please hit the like button. Help me out a lot. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I haven't even looked up the date of my next class, but it'll be not this next Sunday, the following Sunday. I'll let you know soon. And the topic, I think, will be nodes, the nodes of the moon. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think. And book a reading with me. My website is macroastrology.com. My email is macrogoldmachine@yahoo.com. I will see you again soon. All right, thank you. Bye.